Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kinda hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in to alternate ending. Tune in to alternate ending. Tune in to alternate ending. Tune in to alternate ending now. Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternate, discovering good movies one bad movie at a time. I'm film school dropout Rob Jarasinski. Across from me is our casual moviegoer Carrie Jarasinski, and joining us via Zoom because I have a cold is critic in residence Tim Brayton. For this episode, we're going to be doing a Patreon request, top 5 endings. And speaking of endings, hopefully happy endings, it's a Valentine's Day and Super Bowl weekend. Y'all, what plans do you have?
I often do daydream about having an entire football team rub me off, just one at a time. Factory style, just going down the assembly line.
Nice, just a train of football players.
I'm glad you said that, Tim, because
that's why they call it running a train. Exactly.
I'm glad you said that. This is the episode I'm actually going to just send directly to your mother.
Thank you.
So this is
we've had note that mothers have begun listening to our podcast, and we don't like that.
Clean it up, man.
So stop, moms, unless you probably already have, because I've now made it almost a full minute into the show with 2 separate gangbang jokes.
This is your warning.
So you're probably not still here, but if you are still here, you really need to bail, I would say.
That's fair.
Well, that all being said, what plans, Tim, or do you have for this lovely?
Well, I have a very big weekend planned, actually, because it is, as you point out, Super Bowl and Valentine's together. Same weekend, first time it's ever happened. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we are now in a new paradigm of later Super Bowls, so I'm sure we'll see it again. But because these 2 things are happening at the same time, my celebrations for both of them are going to happen more or less simultaneously, which is why on Sunday of this weekend, or I guess, yesterday, given that this podcast goes up on Monday, I watched It's the Super Bowl, Charlie Brown. And then on Monday, the day the podcast goes live, I'll be watching Be My Valentine, Charlie Brown.
Oh,
because my big plan for 2022, and I got off on the wrong foot by missing New Year's Day, and Happy New Year, Charlie Brown. I want to watch every Peanuts special that is tied to a specific celebration or date.
I was unaware of these additional specials. I think
there are 46 Peanut specials.
Wow.
And I think 18 or so of them have it's Arbor Day, Charlie Brown. And that's an actual one. That's not a joke.
I'm really, really glad that you're doing this, because I know we talk a lot about time management and how do we get it all in? And it feels like you've got your priorities, though, in the right place.
They're 22 minutes long, Carrie.
Just kidding. I actually love those too. I'm kind of on board with this because I'm they are soul warming episodes. Everything about them is
because Charlie Brown always loses, and it's always hurts him that he loses, and that just makes me feel good about myself.
Speaking of soul warming, I took Carrie and her mom out for a little Valentine's Day to the theaters.
Nice
we also did the visual medium as a Valentine's Day gift. We went to go see Marry Me, and it is cute, Tim. It is so cute. I enjoyed it. That's all I need to say. We'll talk maybe more about it on a future Past the Popcorn episode, but fun date night.
Can I tell you that I had a self-realization while I was at that movie? Because I'm flanked on one side with my mom, the other side with Rob, and I've developed some old lady irritations, things that bother me, and I don't know. I thought maybe it was my age or whatever. And I'll tell you what it is. I do not want you to talk to me during a movie. Rob will lean over, he'll whisper.
It's during the previews.
It was not during the previews, and this is an ongoing problem. This is not the only. He always leans over. He's trying to evaluate something. And the other thing is he doesn't have a whisper. there is a way to do it so that nobody hears you, but Rob doesn't have that volume. So it's always like just a notch or two too high.
I have a friend, I'm not going to name him, but I have a friend that I sometimes see movies with who totally does not have a stage whisper.
I know
when
who
he's
that
in the
friend
movie
is,
theater.
and it's the same. It's the same thing. So I'm super frustrated by it. I get really snappy, and I'm finally like, I start snapping, like, stop talking to me. But however, when we went to go see Marry Me with my mom was just at like a full tilt, like, that guy's so cute. Like, I love this. And she was like,
so Rob and your mom are double teaming you. Is what I'm hearing.
One in each ear hole. That's
one
right.
in each hole. But what I realized is I was not annoyed at my mom. So I'm like, that's where I had the self-awareness that it's just you.
Okay, good. That's nice.
Now let's take the maximally charitable interpretation of this.
Yes.
Is it that you forgive your mother because she's an old lady and they just don't have control of their faculties?
No, I think I love
It's
her
just
more.
Rob.
Yeah, no, I think it's
just Rob.
it's just Rob.
Well, to
So
combat
happy
some of
Valentine's
those, yeah,
Day.
to combat some of that, Tim, I also got Carrie, gave her an
this
early
was so
present.
nice.
It is a pop-up card, and the pop-up is
Oh my
actually
gosh!
from,
Don't even say it. It's
from
so
Up.
yes.
So
The little.
it's a pop-up card.
Oh my gosh! Yes, indeed.
What did you say?
Well, no, but he
Oh, because
emphasized
the word
up.
up
It's where you put the stress
on
in
the
your speech
up.
together. On up.
It is the sweetest thing. I would say the sweetest thing about it was opening it. I open it. There's like the little house and the balloons pop up and like so that it's 3D. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is really the most thoughtful card I've ever gotten. And I pulled out the little note to see like what meaningful words of love and affirmation that Rob would give me, and it was blank.
Oh,
That's because I had written it in the other gift, which I was getting to. I like why would I write it in the card and then also write?
You just
in
didn't see the pullout, did
I
you?
did not see it. I
You
was
didn't even
rushing
sign
to
it. You
try
didn't even
that.
put
No,
your
I didn't
name.
put my name
I
on
know.
it. Could have been from anybody.
It could have been anybody. I'm going to reuse it for sure.
So the other gift, Tim, and I don't know if you share this. Care does not like flowers for any occasion because they die, and that's a reasonable assessment.
They do.
So for the longest,
as do all of us, as will your children, as will your parents.
yeah,
You don't know that.
It's dark.
You don't know that.
it's very dark. But I do enjoy giving flowers. So to
Why don't you ever give me flowers? I think
give you
it's
some
cool that they
flowers.
die. It reminds me of the death of the people that I love.
So to combat that, Tim, they have these new line of flowers called Le Fleur, and there's a bunch of different companies that do it now. They somehow find a way to preserve the flowers and they're intact with smell and everything for at least a year. So I got Carrie a little mini bouquet of
Flowers
those.
that don't die.
Flowers that don't die.
Flowers that don't die were an innovation decades ago. We call them artificial flowers.
Oh.
But these are real flowers.
They're real, though.
Real flowers.
Real flowers that have been painted in shellac. Got it.
Yeah, something
Could be.
they've done something. They've done something to preserve them. Now, I did not share with
That's actually
Carrie-
super cool. Like I would love to know more about that technology.
and it has been around for a while. To your point, I have not been able to feel up for paying for them. Which is why Carrie
Oh,
only
gosh.
received like three of
Are they
them.
expensive?
They-
Don't tell me. I don't want
They
to
are.
know.
Let me just say, it's cheaper than getting you a dozen roses every month for a year.
Oh, wow.
Which I mean, that's probably the math that they think about.
Yeah, it is the math. But when you get the price tag up front, it's a little bit off-putting. So
Sure.
I haven't.
Are we talking like florist flowers or Costco roses?
No, we're talking about florist flowers. Like
Uh-oh.
if I were to give you a dozen
Sure.
flowers every, would you? Let me ask you this: would you rather have for the same price,
Yeah.
a dozen flowers every month for a year, or one set of flowers that last a year?
I think if I'm being really honest,
Yeah.
I think I'd rather have maybe some snacks. I really like snacks. I've been talking about how I love sandwiches for years. I think I'd like a sandwich.
Okay,
The
Noted.
thing about sandwiches, though, is that a sandwich, you can't put a sandwich out on the counter for a year and then eat it. If you put it out for a year, it will become moldy.
You should have gotten Tim the flowers. Yeah.
It will be the opposite. It will be the opposite of death because it will have bloomed forth with life. But that life would make you very sick if you tried to ingest it.
These are all fair points. These are all fair points. I'm very appreciative. And I have not yet given Rob a gift because it is not Valentine's Day yet until tomorrow. And
you've thought it out. You
yeah.
have it very planned meticulously. Yeah,
I told you about the sandwiches, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
I'm just looking forward to my endings.
your endings?
Yeah.
Oh, about the movies that we're going
Oh no, I was talking about happy endings, but that's fine as my gift. But
You're not kidding.
That was my
I don't imagine it's ever happy.
But good.
Between the two of you.
But good segue. Good segue.
Yeah, we're jumping into our top 5 endings, which is funny because we, thanks to Patreon Jack Chivers, we've done top 5 twists. So as we go into endings, this is why I was giving you a hard time, Carrie, when you were looking very smug and proud from across the room, saying I put together an incredible list of endings. I was very curious if you had included endings that are twisty in nature, because I feel like that's its own category. So
Sure.
what did you end up doing as far as your approach?
I specifically thought about that because I realize now I think my favorite movie is a twist movie. So as I was starting to put the list together, I was like, well, I do not want this to be my top 5 twists, like episode 2.0. So I isolated myself to one twist movie. So I do have one twist on here, but it's I only one. So like I had to not think about Memento or like Psycho, movies like that, because I love those. Those are great endings, but I only have
I'm gonna mount you the argument Psycho does not end on a twist. Psycho has a twist that leads into the ending.
Oh, sure.
It ends with a psychologist very patiently laying out the plot of the movie for 6 long minutes, followed by a dissolve to a shot that is actually good.
That's fair. That's actually very fair. But that actually leads to another point. I don't actually have a very good memory and at all. Like my brain doesn't really remember details unless there's something traumatizing or really bad about it, generally speaking. So when I pulled this list together, it had to be an ending that was so impactful that I couldn't go back and look at any lists to jog my memory on what actually happened. It had to be so crisp and clear in my memory to count it.
That's interesting because I would have guessed that you would not have had sad, because I don't think you don't like sad endings.
I also have that. You guys know me so well. I have on here, ideally, I like my endings happy.
Yeah,
I also
and unambiguous.
We're not.
Wait,
you don't even know. Oh my gosh.
There is going to be absolutely no overlap on this episode.
I do love you a little bit more in this moment because my next thing is I like closure.
She's not going to have broken flowers.
There's
on
no
this
broken
list.
flowers on the list.
That's right.
Maybe you do know me, Rob.
I definitely
know you.
No,
I know you do.
Yeah.
I know you do. I do like closure. That broken flowers ending is bogus. So I want closure. I want it wrapped up in a nice, neat little package for me, handed to me. And again, ideally, it ends happily and iconically and memorably. And
Tim, how about you?
I love ambiguous sad endings. They're my favorites. No, I want to say first about the topic. I'm happy to do it. It's one I've been thinking about for quite some while now. I had actually sort of been holding a little mental note attached to top 5 endings. If, God forbid, if at some point one of us left the show, if at some point one of us was like, I can't do it anymore, need to bail out. I always thought that would be when, as our sort of farewell to whichever third of our tripod decided that the time had come, or both. If you guys decide to just fuck off and go to the Caribbean and just live the rest of your married life in leisure, and it becomes me, the podcast. But anyway, when we had some sort of big traumatic shift like that, I always thought that would be a good time for
you've
top
been
5 endings.
You've been preparing.
So I guess
preparing for this.
What?
You've been preparing for our departure and just making little footnotes and moving.
I mean, it was so long ago that I don't think it hurts to mention it. There was that little scare about a year and a half ago, where we had somebody say that he might be getting slightly worn out, and fortunately nothing came of that. But that's sort of when this started. Actually, was that time period.
There's not the same person on the ledge, but he's easily coerced, so we can always reel him back in. You just gotta throw out a few compliments, tell him his hair looks nice, and he's back.
Tim did do that earlier today.
Oh yes. I have my list of things that I have to say to Rob to butter him up. This week it was hair.
We know.
But no. So now I need to come up with a new one. Maybe top 5 times that you killed your podcast host. I don't know. Come up with it. But so endings. To Carrie's point, I actually agree. It had to be one that I didn't have to go through a list or kind of scan my DVD shelf or any of the things I do. It had to be what's a good ending? That's a good ending. Yep. That's a good ending. Because I really wanted it to be super in my mind. I'm also trying to make sure that I am keeping a fairly rigid definition of ending in place. It cannot extend beyond the length of the final scene. And depending on how complex the final scene is, may indeed only include the final few shots.
100%.
So
100%.
So for example, back to my Psycho example, technically I would say the ending of Psycho is not the psychiatrist explaining what's up with Norman. The ending of Psycho is that shot of Norman in the jail cell looking down at a fly and looking up and grinning into the camera. So I'm trying to be very, very ruthlessly, the ending is the ending. The ending is not the third act. The ending is not the final 10
Happy you
minutes.
said that, because I was thinking of third act, and then I thought that could be its own episode of just, because that's usually where movies fall apart, is the third act. So that would be a fun separate episode, but I am also doing the last scene, and for whatever reason, it's this the theme I'm seeing, at least with mine, are very sad and ambiguous.
You and I might have some lineup, Rob.
Mine are very sad, and it's sad in a very human way. So it doesn't make me sad.
In the just falling apart chaos of post World War II Vienna, there's just nothing good, really. It's just a bunch of people trying to get by as best they can. And through the course of the movie, he has persuaded himself that he has met this woman who is also a former lover of Harry's, and he's convinced that like he can save her. He can like make something with her. They can find love in this ruined Europe. And so the last part of the movie is she has gone to Harry's grave. He has died over the course of the film's third act, and is walking back from his grave. So our protagonist, Holly, sort of stands on the road that leads back into town. And so there's the final scene is just a single shot. It's pointing straight down the road, very, very deep focus. And we see her walking all the way from the back of the frame. She's this tiny little human object just walking towards us. And he's standing in the lower corner of the frame watching her. And it's very clear that he's kind of hoping that she'll get up to him and sort of walk over and they will embrace and whatever. And she just walks right past, doesn't turn towards him, doesn't slow down, doesn't look towards him, just walks right off frame. And he just kind of stands there and he looks towards her as she walks off frame, and then he just kind of looks off into the distance and it just fades to black. And it's partially what makes it a great ending is that it's so long. Like this is like a 2-minute long shot, and it's just hanging there, and you're kind of aware the whole time that it's just going to end, and you know things going to happen, and I'm just going to have been watching this 2-minute shot of a road just kind of fizzle into nothingness. And it does, and it feels like such a perfect encapsulation of the sort of general hopelessness that this movie has been trafficking in. And that's the ending.
I think we watched that at Tim's house.
That was like one of our first. Yeah, well, it was good.
It was. It was.
Night.
And I remember that, and that's one of the challenges. Like, I love hearing you recap it and tell it. I would not be able to ever give you that amount of detail.
I've seen The Third Man like a dozen times. It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, the thing that stands out for me is still that monologue. It's like if we've done top 5 monologues, like it would be burned in.
If we did top 5 monologues, that'd be at least my top 3. Yeah. Just that monologue. Just keep repeating it.
Just the ants. Just the ants.
We're coming out strong here with Casper and The Third Man.
Hopefully you all agree with this. This movie was steeped in controversy in 2016. Best Picture nominee. I could have went one or two ways because this director also had another film that had an ending that stuck with me, and that one was Whiplash. But instead, I ended up going with La La Land, which is a far less
hated this ending
optimistic ending. But at the same time, it's very real and very true to Hollywood. What are you, Tim? Any feelings on?
Oh, I love this ending.
Okay, good.
I think this is a phenomenal ending. I think this ending is the difference between La La Land, that's a cute movie, and La La Land, that was the film I was rooting for Best Picture.
Very much honestly. A Hollywood story, because you have an up and coming actress and an up and coming jazz musician who find each other and support each other and start their careers start taking off. And can their successes or their relationship bear the weight of each success? And they end up middle of the movie kind of breaking off, and then the ending is with them. She's coming back. Emma Emma Stone is coming back from success. Like they go out, she goes out with her husband. You can tell she's had kids now, but they're on a date night and they pop into this little jazz club, and then Ryan Gosling's character also successful, and they meet, and he just pours himself into this like song.
You're making me sad.
And it kind of flashes to what their life could have been, and then back to reality of, but it won't be. But they share this like
so
knowing exchange,
sad.
and to me that is like so beautiful and real. And it's tragic, but I've known so many people.
Tragic.
I've known people
Exactly.
in my life who it's a matter of timing.
Yeah.
Like where they were the right people for each other, if not for timing.
Yeah, but that's
But
the
then
worst case scenario.
It's terrible.
That's
like
terrible.
you're the right person for me, but just not at the right time. But then life moves on.
Yeah, but what
and
if
then
you didn't
can't
know? Yeah, and then
make
she
it-
goes off. She ends up marrying this other guy. But then it's like, what if the other guy's better? But now you're trapped because you've got kids and you're tied down with all this stuff.
That's life though.
No,
that's
it's
what I'm saying.
not.
Is like it's a really good
What would
encapsulation.
you do? What would you? So let's just say you'd pass me by. We
I
met
think
when
people
we were.
stick it out.
You would. So you're saying you wouldn't leave your wife for me?
I'm saying I'm a romantic, so I absolutely would follow, like, which is interesting. It's a Ryan Gosling movie, the Notebook style of romance, and like throw caution to the wind and do that.
So you would leave your wife, like if you were married and you had kids, but we were like, I was the one. You're saying you would leave your family.
I am the type of person who would pursue like happiness, like true happiness above all.
You would before sunset it.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think you would. That's the
I
thing.
absolutely would, but I think most people stick it out.
I don't
and
think you'd be
don't
able to
rock
quit
the
me,
boat.
Rob. I don't think you'd be able to.
Yeah. So anyway,
I
that's-
wouldn't. I would be trapped for the rest of my life.
If I can throw a couple more observations onto this ending, because I think it's superb. I love it. Maybe even my favorite part of the film. It is, I think, a really great hybrid of. There are some films that are clearly very specifically influencing La La Land. One of which I showed you guys, The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, and I think this is a perfect like marriage of The Umbrellas of Cherbourg ending with the, with like a sort of an American in Paris, the Hollywood musical, where it's this kind of like wonderful, stagey, hugely artificial recap that then ends in this moment. And to Carrie's point, so I think the great thing about the ending is at the end, we see in both of the actors' close-ups that they acknowledge each other's presence. And the vibe I get is a sort of, I'm happy you were part of my life. I wouldn't be where I am if not for you. And it's not sad for them, right? Like, I don't think either one of them in this moment are sad people. And the thing I've always said about the end of Umbrellas, where, you know, we flash forward many years in this young couple that the last time we saw them, they were horribly distressed that they were being parted by the Algerian War. And then flash forward and all of a sudden she's married, he's got a gas station, and they're like, oh, I remember you. And that's it. And that's the ending. And I think what's so powerful about Umbrellas is that the viewer finds it tragic because we haven't downshifted from this great, robust, operatic love story. The characters have. And I kind of feel that the characters in La La Land have. Like, they're good. They both have good careers. They're both doing what they want. She's got kids. Who doesn't like kids?
I read
Her
those.
husband seems super nice.
I don't know though, Tim. I read those exchanges differently. I read it as regret. Like I read it as like, oh, if only. Like I know you were the one for me, and it passed me by. Like I saw this. Like I feel like there was just a deep sadness that they had.
I mean, I don't, and that's to me what makes it sad. Is like I feel sad.
Yeah.
So I have to do all of the feeling sad because to me the characters aren't.
But that's why it's impossible, because they wouldn't have been happy if they stayed. They wouldn't have reached
their
the success, but that's not why they would not be happy. Like it didn't work. It's just timing.
Timing.
It's just timing.
timing.
And it's just what, like, that's
That
what's
being
tragic.
said, La La Land is built on a completely bullshit reason for him not to go to Paris. But that's fine.
That's
because
fine.
they needed to get to the ending.
Exactly. Such a good pick, though.
Thank you.
Such a good ending. I mean, I hate it, but it's good.
You're not going to like the rest of mine, for sure.
All right. Well, I've got a good one for you. I think this might crack someone's list. This to me was such a surprising movie. It's subtitled. It's one of the first subtitled movies that I saw that I was just like completely drooling because I was so into it, and I was like mouth agape the entire movie. I everything about it was so unexpected. I loved the message of it. I loved everything that it was doing. I liked the twinges of horror that were in it. I loved the twinges of drama, comedy, like everything all wrapped into one. And this is 2019's Parasite.
Interesting.
Is it on anyone's lists?
I would like to hear your arguments in favor of the ending, because I actually specifically dislike it.
I just think it's I know what ending you're thinking. I don't like that part either.
Well, now I'm curious.
Well, are you saying that you don't like the part
Carrie?
where the son comes in and buys you think that he's buying the house? Are you talking about that part?
I don't love that part.
That part I don't love, but I do love the idea of like the family actually sort of like rising up. Like, so they come together. It's this basic, well, everyone's seen this movie probably now, but it's like this family who is sort of living in squalor essentially in, where does this take place again?
Korea.
In Korea. In squalor, is working for this wealthy family. They end up going out and figuring out all these different ways to sort of like get inside this family's life and essentially like to propel their own success forward. So like the dad becomes the driver, and then, you know, the girl becomes the caretaker for the baby, like all of that. And they work their way in. And then there's this whole other ring of things that are happening in the basement where people are like trapped. So I don't know. I just thought it was a little bit.
So what ending are you talking about?
What happens to the dad? Do they all survive? Like, I thought that they end up like rising to the top above the wealthy family. I thought, don't they?
No.
Does that not happen?
No.
Oh shoot!
Your memory of this is.
I mean, this is
I
like
thought they took over the
art house ambiguous ending is the thing.
Oh no! Hang on. So
the son monologues about how he's going to buy the house that his father is presently trapped in, so that he can reunite the family.
Yeah.
It is extremely unclear if he has done so, or if this is just like what he's saying.
It's like a La La
he's
Land
going to try to
situation.
do.
Yeah.
No, I think he gets the. See, I think I thought he got the dad out. Like that he's going to rise up. He now has the wealth to buy the house and then get the dad out.
But if we take the message of the movie that like Bong Joon-ho, like you never escape poverty.
You know, I think we let Carrie have a happy ending for Parasite because she likes Parasite so much.
So you're
saying,
I
don't want her to think it has an unhappy ending.
I'm going to work hard. I'm going to rise up from poverty, and then I'm going to buy that house. And like,
and you're saying you don't think he bought the house?
I don't think so.
I'm saying I think the father dies of starvation in the basement.
Yes, that's my take on it as well.
Well, that's not great at all.
It's not a happy ending, no.
I don't like this one.
That's what I'm saying. Let's just let Carrie have her reading of Parasite because movie matters to Carrie a whole lot, and I want to not besmirch that.
I'm never rewatching this ever again. I just was saying to Rob, I'm like, we have to rewatch this. Like, I really didn't see it enough, and
I'd like to see it again.
It's a great movie.
I did think that I liked this ending though, but to that end, I mean, that's still a really good ending for people like you who like dismal and dark and grief-stricken.
That's true.
So
we're sticking with the happy ending. I want you to have this.
So that helps with the clarification too. It's not that you don't like unambiguous endings. You like you like ambiguous endings if there is a read that is a happy read that you've taken on.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Okay.
Gosh,
then you may like
page.
my number 4. I'm excited to get to it now.
All right. Tim, what's yours?
So my number 4, which is where we are. This is the closest I have to a happy ending. This is one of the 2 films that I said that I had 2 films by 2 directors. This is one of my 2 Federico Fellini films that were sort of being weighed. The other one, the one that I ended up not putting on the list, was 8.5. The one that I did put on my list is 1957's The Knights of Cabiria, which is the story of a woman of the night, shall we say. A prostitute played by Giulietta Messina, who's sort of, doing fine in her life, like nothing's going wrong, except at a certain point, it looks like things might start going really, really well. And that's sort of the arc of the film, is she's given the possibility of getting out of her current situation, and it doesn't work out. And that's kind of where the film is. So she gets to the end of this movie and she's lower than she's ever been. Like, again, she sort of wasn't all that low to start with. Like, it wasn't a glamorous life, but it was working for her. Now she's just been sort of confronted with the squalor of her life. And she's extremely sad and just desolate. And she starts walking through the night, through a woody area. And there's like a bunch of young people sort of having a big party in the woods. And she's walking. And again, I just realized this is another ending where the entire final scene is one long shot. In this case, it's a tracking shot latched onto Massina's character, Cabiria, as she's walking. So like we're sort of tracking along with her. And we see her walking past all these people having fun and laughing and running around. They keep trying to like engage her and like, you know, why aren't you having a good time? Like we should all be partying. We're all such in a good mood. And over the course of this very long tracking shot, you watch her face. And like, that's what we're looking at the whole time. It's just, we're seeing her face as she's, you know, walking along. And she starts in this very just low, like anguished look of pure depression. And over the course of this walk, as she hears more and more of these people and she sees more and more of their liveliness, you can just kind of watch her face like grow into this smile over the course of about a minute. And at the end, she seems very happy and very content and almost blissful and just this kind of recognition of the liveliness and the life energy all around her. And it is a little ambiguous because, I mean, where does she go from here? Like what happens to her after this night, after this walk is over? But it does feel uplifting in a way because even after everything that's happened to her, she still has the core strength that we've seen her have throughout this whole movie. And it ends in this, you know, again, this sort of very, very earned, very rich smile. And Messina is just such a great facial actor that like she kind of can bring that smile up very, very slowly, almost like you've got a dimmer switch that you're just ever so slightly sneaking up over the course of a minute. Just very lovely, very
sounds good.
Yeah.
Happy-ish ending.
We haven't like seen any Fellini, Care.
I've been missing on the Fellini.
What's the one to get in and start with, Tim?
I mean, I would always say La Strada, but that is a particularly depressing melodrama, and I know that Carrie bounces off of depressing melodramas pretty hard. I'll have to let that one cook.
Yeah, let it cook. While it's cooking, I've got Tim. Look at this, a pre-1980 film on my list here.
I love it.
I know what it is, and we're matching. It's my number 2.
I don't think you've seen this,
Oh.
but maybe. So this is one that often gets thought of as a happy ending. But if you pay attention, at least my read on it is not. It is what happens after Happily Ever After, done with like no dialogue and just a still long shot of the two people in question. And that is why it is burned in my memory. I've only seen the movie maybe once or twice, but it's 1967's Mike Nichols' The Graduate.
This is on my list. I mean, it didn't make my top 5, but it was on my short list.
In Care?
Is this Dustin Hoffman?
Yes.
And the older lady?
Yes, Anne Bancroft.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh my God.
Well, the ending is not Anne Bancroft. The ending is Catherine Ross.
Correct. Yes. But it's about a college student and it strikes up an affair with an older woman, and then he's also interested in the daughter, and the old woman.
I wish to just make one minor correction.
Yeah,
it is unambiguously not about a college student.
He's not a college student?
He is, in fact, a graduate.
Oh, graduate student. Thank you for the correction.
No. He graduated.
Got it. He's fresh out of school. He's just fresh out of school. Thank you.
He's a Dewey Dustin. I've seen like the one scene where he like.
It's only because it's the film's title. I'm being a dick. It's only because it's the film title. But no, tell us about the ending.
So a lot of
Braddock is just out of college.
Just out of college. A lot of folks, and in fact, Wayne's World. There's been parodies of this of what people think of as the happy ending to this. And that would be the scene in which Dustin Hoffman crashes the wedding of his young love, who's now going to be betrothed. She's been betrothed to someone else. He crashes the wedding, pounds on the glass. You know, again, Wayne's World's done it. Like many parodies of this. So he ends up crashing the wedding, runs out with the bride, and they get into the car and leave. And like if you just took it on its face, you would think that it was a happy ending. But Mike Nichols, the director, stays on those two for like what seems like an hour of screen time. And if you look at their faces, it is what happens after Happily Ever After to me. And the reality sets in of like, holy shit, we just did this crazy thing. What do we do now? And that is the reality. It's again, like I for whatever reason.
Does he end up with the older lady or the?
No. Well, the movie ends with them, the two of them in the car, and they're like,
But is he with the daughter?
With the daughter.
Okay.
They're
He's with the daughter.
filled with energy. Like they're panting as they just ran to the car and ran away. But then again, Mike Nichols, the director, sticks with them, and then like it's very sobering. Of, all right, crap. Now what do we do? And that's at least my read. I don't know if I think that's
how can that not be a read? How can you not just see
Carrie
wells of ambiguity
I don't
there?
think Carrie would read it that way. I think she'd be like, "Oh, that's great. They ended up together and they're happy and they."
I think I did see that clip and did think that. So wait, you think that they don't?
I think that life will not be kind to them in some way. Like, I think this is a moment of excitement,
impulsivity,
impulsiveness, and reality will set in that relationships take work and are hard.
Sure.
And I think that they're just riding this crazy high. And if it just ended with them running out and fade to black, or in the car really quick, but he chooses to stay on them. And then their faces do the rest of the work. They're not even looking at each other by the end of it. It's like, oh shit, what do we do now? Is the vibe I get.
It's absolutely. And like Hoffman keeps glancing at Catherine Ross and she's just sort of looking anywhere at all but at him. And it's just, again, we sort of see their faces just deflate. And it's not even deflate into like, oh no, we're doomed. It's more into, as Rob is saying, like, oh, okay. Now what? And that's just the vibe you get. And what makes it, I think, even more potent is that's not actually the last shot, because the last shot then cuts to
him emptying the
outside.
Dishwasher.
What?
Him emptying the dishwasher and her doing laundry. No. Okay.
It cuts to outside the bus, looking at the bus. The camera stops moving and the bus pulls away, and it's like, we're done. Like, something's going to happen. We aren't going to be there for it. And it's just like, it's very much the film being like, okay, like, we don't know. And I think that makes it even more potent, is that we literally leave the characters. Like, they are, wherever they're going, we're not going with them.
Yeah,
and
that
just
oh, that's right, because it is a bus.
Sharpens the ambiguity.
I in my mind, I thought it was a car. Yeah.
No, they hop in a bus and run all the way to the back seat of the bus, and they're sitting in front of it.
Are they? Refresh my memory, and maybe you don't remember, Tim. They're holding hands initially. Do they end up kind of doing like a let go, or are they like awkwardly holding hands?
In my recollection, and I haven't seen the movie in a while, the shot is framed above their hands, but that might not be correct.
All right. And I kind of want to rewatch this as well too, just that last 5 minutes of it, just for this scene.
You're really selling me on it.
Good shit. It's good shit.
It's good. All right. The next one I'm going to come into with my number 3, I'm a little worried about, because this is my twister. I had to have it on here, but I actually don't remember when the ending. Again, I don't remember the actual ending, I guess.
I'm very excited.
So I think, to me, this is the second movie actually that came to mind with this topic. Like, to me, this is the most iconic twist ending of all time. There's no question that everybody already knows. This is like in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. So this also had to be on my list. And so the moment where we've been deceived for the entire length of the movie as to who is dead and who is not. Or wait, are they both dead? Gosh, I have really bad memory.
Just Bruce Willis.
He's dead. Gosh, again. Wait, because he breathes. I see dead people. It's because he's looking at Bruce Willis, who is dead. But you don't know that. Nobody knows that. Tim didn't know that. Not one person knew that. And that ending for me of like that culmination of finding that out was mind-blowing, bending, and I still has stuck with me forever. But maybe, like, how close to the ending do we find that out?
It's close.
Okay.
It happens close to the ending.
So that ending is just, again, for me, something that, like, give it to me all day. It's the movie that if somebody says what's the best ending of all time,
I only excluded it because it's the twist.
Oh, okay.
That's what makes
it would have qualified.
The good ending for me was the twist.
But this is the best of the twists. And so, yeah, and I just love it. So it had to be on here. There's no explanation that you need for The Sixth Sense if you've missed it. There's just a problem that you have. So go see it.
And just to clarify what happens after the twist, there's not a whole lot left. He sort of flashes back and he recalls all the moments in the film where it was kind of seeded that this was going to potentially be happening, and we reconceive all of these scenes. And there's like a final little moment between him and his wife. So it's
Tragic.
pretty much the ending. I would say the ending is not the twist. I would say the ending is the moment with the wife, but we'll count it.
Thanks.
I think we count it.
Thanks. Yeah, one of the best. And I want to watch it again. How old do you think our kids have to be to see that? That's pretty graphic, right? The barf.
You know, it's not. I don't think it's graphic.
Do you remember the girl that throws up in the tent?
Sure.
Ugh.
There's like an atmosphere. Like
Yeah.
all of Shyamalan's, many of his are, most of his are PG-13.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh,
I think none of them are.
Yeah.
I think our kids would freak out.
No, he builds suspense. Or he used to do a very good job at it.
So, yeah, that's my number 3.
All right.
Not on your list.
So my number 3, again, with these sort of extremely beloved by film studies type people endings. And I will point out, it occurred to me only after, Rob, after you said that you had one before 1980 and you were very proud of that fact. So I have now had 1949 and 1957. We have already had the newest film on my list at this point. So, I feel bad.
I think we're going to have overlap. I think we are, Tim.
I will see.
Okay.
So we're going to go back from the heavily recent year of 1957, just a little bit, going back to 1956, so only 1 year earlier, to the extraordinarily iconic image that ends John Ford's Western, The Searchers. This is one of those things that, like, it's the thing people talk about with this movie and has been basically since the 50s. So if you don't know the plot, The Searchers is about this man who, his name is Ethan, played by John Wayne. He's this sort of very dark-hearted racist who his niece is stolen in a raid by, I believe, the Apache. And he decides in this moment that he is going to go find her and rescue her and then bring her back to her family. And so the whole movie is him and the young woman's like friend who grows up over the course of the film, spending like 10 years just hunting through the American Southwest, trying to find this tribe, trying to find the niece. Finds her. She's sort of gone native, as they say, and he decides that rather than rescue her, he wants to kill her. He ends up not doing this, brings her back. And so throughout the entire film, we've had this sense that he's just a bad person. Like he is driven by cruelty. He is driven by hatred. He's this kind of like outside the law figure whose only interest is in kind of destroying whatever is in his way as a like force of sort of bringing United States civilization into this part of the West. And so it's usually sort of understood that he kind of represents this like frontier spirit that had to be gotten rid of. Like, we settle the West and then we can't have people like that in it anymore because he's just too violent. He's just too like consumed with destruction and with hatred and with murder and all of these things that you need in order to survive on the frontier. But you don't need to survive in quote unquote civilization. So the film ends in this very short wordless scene where he brings her back into the cabin where we've been seeing this cabin throughout the film. He brings her in, sets her down. All of the people in the cabin sort of cluster around her and like put their hands on her, and she's very scared and confused. And so they sort of like comfort her and take her, and they pull her off screen. And Ethan, the John Wayne character, is just standing in the doorway watching all of this. And he kind of takes a step back out of the doorway, and we just see him sort of silhouetted against the landscape. And he just turns around and walks away, and the door shuts behind him. And that's it. And it's just this moment of like, okay, he had to go. People like that had to go. Like they got us to this point, but they're bad people and we don't want them around. So it's like this very, very symbolic, very literal shutting out the West, like the Wild West. The door just gets closed on it. And it's very, 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 very potent image. Again, it's wordless, which sort of helps sell this thing that it's just kind of the iconic image itself. And it's this very famous pose of John Wayne standing in the doorway. He's got his hand clasped on his left elbow, which is a famous pose from an earlier generation of a Western actor. And yeah, it's just this wonderful little symbolic, quiet coda. It only takes about 45 seconds or so for the scene to play out. But again, it's one of those things that if you know Westerns, it's like the most famous shot in this movie.
That's so cool. We'll have to ask your dad about that when he comes over for the Super Bowl, if he's seen.
Oh, I'm sure he has.
I'm curious if he's got the same read on it, because that's a really cool read, Tim. Again, like I'm sure
it is the
read.
standard reading.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that this person specifically has that reading, but that's like what critics have been saying about this ending.
Oh no, and it makes total sense given the what the movie is trying to say. For my number 3, this is really the last shot, and this is the best shot.
Shot of overlap.
Being on your list. I question it because it is not. It is not ambiguous at all.
Okay.
And its read and it's sad. So I'm surprised that it wouldn't be. Based on that, it shouldn't be on your list, but I'm surprised it's not on your list because it is the best final scene. One of the best final scenes.
It's on my list.
Okay. This one got me. I was really high on this movie when we saw it for the first time in 2017, and then the last scene in particular, the way the music settles in, the song that's played. I don't care for this actor necessarily, but brings it. The camera's just on his face for like the entirety of a 5-minute song and just crying into a fireplace. It is Call Me By Your Name, and that's Timothée Chalamet. Just such a good ending of that song with the tears. He just found out that the love of his life is getting married into an unhappy
unhappy marriage.
It's timing.
Yeah,
it goes back to the timing.
That's more than timing there, probably. But have you said the title?
Call Me By Your Name.
It was unfortunate timing that they did not exist at a time in a place where gay people could be out.
What year was that, though? Because what year was that?
Like 1980.
I thought that was fine by then. Not in the 80s.
I mean, Ellen still faced like career repercussions in 1996. So.
Correct. Yeah.
Horrifying. And I wonder if he's even crying too. Gosh, now that I'm thinking back to that was so tragic. The dad scene with Timothée Chalamet, where the dad like basically accepts him because again, he also said like that I had to make choices that I didn't want to make because I had to just progress family, blah, blah, blah. I wonder if that's like even more tragic because his dad would have been fine with it. But then we're saying that Armie Hammer's character wasn't. So it's like 50, do you think Timothée Chalamet is thinking they're like, this could have worked for me, but it's not going to work because
probably
Armie Hammer's
I think
character
it's
can?
For him, it's the closing of that
opportunity.
Maybe in his mind, he thought that age-wise and enough time, but by him going down the path of getting married,
it's over.
That's it. Despite the Call Me By Your Name 2 discussions.
That's true.
That's no longer happening.
Yeah, thanks to Armie. So thanks for taking one for the team.
That was going to be my point. I actually view it as a happy ending because Timothy would have been eaten. We don't want that.
That's true.
You would want that. I wouldn't want that.
Just to plug the song, I think I always mispronounce his name, Sufjan Stevens. Visions I think that's of Gideon. Right. Such a good rap to that movie. I stayed through the entire crying scene.
Yeah, you did.
And the credits to get to, so
I
good.
struggled on this one because I thought about it, and then it also led me down a path of Portrait of a Lady on Fire because I watched those two in somewhat similar time frames, and I just remember thinking comparing and contrasting what I liked about both more because they were just neck and neck on a lot of things.
So now we know what's on your list.
Well, no, I don't know that the ending there was enough for me, and to your point, it was just I think those two endings are looks. The look from her in the end is that's tragic, the eye contact. And then same for Timothée Chalamet. It's we're just staring at him for 45 seconds. I don't know if that was enough to me to say top 5 endings of all time.
Sure. No, I get it.
To me, the end of Portrait of a Lady to me is an absolute just barn burner. I would not have. It's not on my list because it's much too new of a movie. But no, that is certainly an ending that I would say does a lot to me.
Yeah, it does for me too, but I'm ticked. I'm just just go. She's right there. She's just right there. It's too frustrating for me.
That would be a much worse ending.
Not for
To
me.
me.
Just wanted to run off in their
yeah.
gauzy blankets and be in love.
Well, no overlap yet, but
Oh, yeah.
we each still have 2 left, and you can find more details about all the movies we've watched at our website, alternateending.com. That's alternateending.com. Before we hit our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. Get early access and exclusive content, make us watch a movie, pick your own episode topic, and more from our Patreon site, much like Jack did for this episode of Top 5 Endings. Celebrating their anniversaries this month is Simon Proud, who has a Razzie Award, along with Joseph. And then we have Daniel Schuster, who has our Critics' Choice Award, Andrew Milne, our Golden Globe, and then Aaron and Dale with a Golden Globe as well. Thank you for being patrons. Also want to thank all of our listeners. Oh, actually, before I do, Carrie, you've been marching down trying to get us additional podcast reviews, and I believe we had a few new reviews come through.
Yeah, I really wanted to share this because I really appreciate you taking the time. You can go out to iTunes and you can leave a review or just a rating there. Like just leaving a star rating is super helpful too. But really appreciative to people who went out and took the extra time to actually leave written content. Like that's just super life affirming, podcast affirming, whatever you want to call it. We really appreciate it. So I wanted to share a couple of those. One of them came from Dan S321, and he said, "Great blend of voices. Tim, Rob, and Carrie bring a very wide variety of voices and perspectives on movies. Tim brings some serious film history bona fides, but the tone is very comedic. That's one word for it. Great cast chemistry, always a fun listen, especially the top 5 episodes. The ad intermissions run long, so I skipped them." That's on you, Rob. You gotta keep it tight.
Yeah, wait for this one. It's short and sweet.
I actually, after I saw this, I went out and timed the last one. You were reading Amazon for like 10 minutes.
It was we were catching up from a backlog, but
Sure,
we were
sure.
all caught up. So plus, you know what? We get funny bits in there sometimes.
I know.
There are sometimes they pay off.
I just want to throw it out there.
Remember how for the space of one episode we agreed not to talk about food, and then we started talking.
And then he didn't. He went back. He's talking dairy. It's just all over the place. So just keep it tight. Keep it tight. That's the only feedback. And then this next one comes from, and I'm just reading. This one comes from somebody's handle whose name is Titty April. Appreciate film differently. Have you been thinking about what podcast you want to line up for your listening pleasure? I've got one for you. Alternate Ending is one of my faves. For those that have subscribed and rated already, do it and thank me later. If you haven't, check it out. Carrie, my casual moviegoer spirit animal. Rob, the film school dropout I'll never be. And Tim, the I don't always agree with what he says, but I respect his opinion, super smart film professor and reviewer. Make me laugh, cry, and frankly connect with film in a whole new way. Highly recommend. So thank you.
You move me deep. You move me very deeply to the April.
That's right. It is true. And we really appreciate it. So thanks for doing that. And if you haven't left a rating or review, just go out there and do that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks. Also want to thank all of our listeners who support the show and make their Amazon purchases through our site. Doing is easy. Just go to our website, alternateending.com, click on that Amazon banner, and seamlessly go about your purchases. All proceeds go to making our show better, much like these proceeds. Since the last episode, here were the things that were purchased. It's we can start thinking about lawn and garden season with spring peeking its little head around. Well, not here in Wisconsin, but maybe in other places. We had a 3-foot Zilla Green.
Love keeping it
hose.
tight.
It's gonna be tight. We also had Amazon Basics multi-purpose copy printer paper.
Oh, love that.
Yeah. Also had a 2022 wall and desk calendar. It's not too late.
No.
You know, to get the
organized.
and get the organization.
I mean,
going.
it's only been January. That doesn't even count.
No.
It's
Yes.
a fake month.
Or you could wait for the big sale and just really have a solid November and December and just wait for the deals. You're
Falling
saying
asleep.
it.
Get
Falling
going.
asleep.
Get going.
It's like 2 more things.
Okay.
Books and textbooks. On book, we had No Longer Human. And then video on demand, someone rented 4 rooms, which I have not seen.
Ooh.
I think it's a comedy.
It's one of the rooms is terrific, and the other 3 I don't.
Oh,
need so much.
it's an anthology or shorts or
It's an anthology picture. Yeah.
very cool. Well, when we
Great
get
Tarantino segment.
oh
Great
okay,
Tarantino segment.
when we get back, our top 5 endings. And welcome back to Alternating. We're talking about our top 5 endings. We still each have 2 remaining. There's been no crossover, Care. You're number 2. Is there a chance?
There is a chance. There's a huge chance. The only concern that I have that this won't be on Tim's list, even though that it should be, is that it is delightfully happy.
I think we've already established that none of our movies will be on Tim's list.
Tim, you don't have any happy endings.
Well, no, just no movies.
I already gave my happiest ending.
Oh, that was the happiest, because this is so happy. And I am really regretful that I cannot find the exact name, and it's escaping me right now, of who gifted us this via Patreon, because it was a Patreon pick. It's an older movie that I would have otherwise completely missed. And there was one of 2 ways that this ending could have gone. And I was nervous. I was building anxiety. I was starting to get stressed. I was starting to pace the room while we were watching it. And it ended exactly how I wanted it to, which was so unexpected.
Sleepless in Seattle.
Better. Actually, I take that back. I'm walking that back. It's close. They're both very close. They're both very good movies. This is this young man who has nothing. He's just sort of hanging out. He has nothing except pretty much like a hat and like kind of a cool jacket. And he's running around and he sees the most beautiful woman that he's ever seen in his entire life. But there's a bit of a hiccup. She can't actually see him. Okay. And it's because she's blind. And then she has all these dreams and wants to do all this stuff. And she has this available surgery to her, but it's so expensive and she doesn't have the money for it either. And even though he doesn't have the money for it, he goes out and finds all the ways to get her money for the surgery. Here's the ending. I don't even want to tell people because they've missed it. This is from 1931, by the way. At the end of this movie, she ends up getting her sight back. She is working in a flower shop and she is just divine. He comes by and you think, he's not the best looking. He's not great. He's got like a kind of a weird mustache.
He's kind of a little tramp, you could say.
That's a word I wouldn't use, but he's
That's the word that Chaplin used dozens and dozens of times.
Okay, fair. He's a little ruffled up. And so he comes there and she ends up realizing that he's the one that gave her the money. There's the realization so that she can now see that it's this person she fell in love with when she was blind. And she loves him still. And the movie ends with us realizing that they will be together despite like his roughness. And it is the best ending almost of a movie I've ever seen. And this is 1931's City Lights.
This is my number 1.
I feel like you're pandering, Carrie.
What do you mean?
Bit of pandering.
That is not a pander.
Okay.
Did that seem like I wasn't excited about that ending?
Is that the ending, Tim?
Yes.
That is a very nearly accurate description of the ending. I don't know if we know that they're getting together.
Oh, I know.
That's part of where the power comes from me. It's the power comes to me in part because of Chaplin's gestures, and so again, this is to me the best ending in cinema. So I feel like I need to go to bat for that. First off, as we all know, all good movies are silent movies. There's never been a good sound movie because silent movies rely on the face. And I've actually realized as I sort of describe that, almost all of mine are about facial acting and like the subtleties we're seeing on an actor's face. In this case, Chaplin is so nervous because he recognizes her and he knows she doesn't recognize him. And he's kind of shell shocked, and she gives him a flower, and it's like she and her friend are like, "Oh, the little hobo, we're gonna give him a flower, tee hee hee." And he takes it, and he's so excited. And there's this thing he does where he puts his hands to his mouth, like he's like so excited, but he doesn't know if he can actually smile, if he needs to hide his smile, if he needs to sort of support his smile. There's such nervousness there, and he's like just gently touching the flower to his face a little bit, and then she realizes what's going on. And her face goes slack in that moment. Like she just is kind of shocked. And then we have that title card, you can see now. And then she responds, I can see. And so it's that just interchange of he has just such unalloyed joy. Yes. And I think his joy is not, yay, we're going to get together now. We're going to have babies. His joy is that the woman he loves more than any other thing he's ever loved has found success. And that's I think where his joy comes from. And at the end, I don't know if we know how she feels. Like she's happy that now she knows what he looks like. She's happy that now she's back in his life, but I don't know if they're going to get together. I don't know if this is the last time they'll ever see each other. And I think that's part of where the power comes from. It's just that it's a moment of happiness, and the tramp gets a few moments of happiness.
Well, and so Tim, I hope this helps you. I hope this helps even improve your love for the movie. I can confirm.
I would like it less if it were unambiguous.
I know you would.
I like ambiguous endings.
I know you would, but I'm sure that they ended up together and had babies and dogs and lots of dogs. I can feel it because I could see to your exact point. When you can read so much more from just like eye movement and facial reaction, and her reaction was not of, oh shit, this guy is like rough.
Well, she's stunned. She's not upset. She's not the opposite of upset. She's just stunned.
But I don't think that she's turned off by his appearance or anything like that. I think it's warmth. There's a warmth there that I could see in her that led me to know that they were going to have a long life together where they would eventually have many children and grandchildren and live happily ever after.
I also want to just throw one more log on my side of the pile. This is a film that has a sync soundtrack. Not a sync soundtrack, but it has a dedicated soundtrack. So even though it's a silent film, it comes out in 31, so they could have like a sort of, no, it is a sync soundtrack. It's just not sync dialogue. So the music in this moment is the music that Chaplin himself wants to be there, and it's very tense music. It's not like big bombastic romantic violence. It's sort of very moody in a way, and it's kind of like, it's beautiful, but it's also sort of wary.
Yeah,
and that's I think what to me adds to the feeling of like
We will leave it
but
there.
No, this is when we came up with this topic, it was number one without me even having to think about it. I had to think about the other four. Did not have to think about this one.
Well, nice job, Carrie, reading the critic there.
Thanks. That's my number 2.
And you just came up with that on your own, huh?
Yeah, I went through it. Yes. Yeah. I don't even know what you're saying. It just came to popped into my head. Right. I've held it with me. I am being my true self, my authentic self with my number 2. And as Tim would look at this, my top 2, you'll probably say, Tim, that it should have been inverted. You're probably saying I'm progressing in the wrong direction, but it is an ambiguous ending unless you take Michael Caine's recent feedback that's come out on this film. And again, I could have taken a number of different movies from this director, but I went with Inception. Is what I ended up going with.
When you said Michael Caine, I just was like, the Italian Job.
No, and the ending in question that I enjoy so much. Number 1, love this movie. Heist movie, heist in your head is basically what it is. Leo DiCaprio has been exiled from the U.S., like not allowed to come back, can't see his kids, can't see his family. Finds a way to maybe be able to do that if he pulls off one last job, and it's a really incredibly hard job. Fast forward to the end, he's pulled off the job. Earlier in the movie, you find out that the way you know what's reality and what's dream is you carry with you a totem. And Leo's totem is a spinning top. If it does not topple over, it is, as in the dream. If it topples over, it's reality. He arrives back at his house. He spins the top, looks out. His kids are there. And he goes out, runs out to hug them. Happy ending. Camera comes back, the top is still spinning, goes to black, you still hear the top spinning, and you're just waiting. Is it going to topple over, or is it not going to topple over? And you're like, you never get that satisfaction. And that to me is like a really solid, fun way to wrap up a movie.
Sounds good.
I like your ending better than the one that the movie actually has.
What am I missing? I feel like I rewatched the scene too.
The top wobbles but does not fall while we are looking at it.
Okay.
And I find that to be a very cute gesture that I wish had not been made. I wish we had just seen the top spinning.
You just wanted more ambiguity.
I wanted I mean, it would be ambiguous either way. I think he's like making a sort of like, ho, I'm being ambiguous because the top wobbles but doesn't fall. I'd rather he just like lets it be ambiguous than sort of calls attention.
For what it's worth, I still think it's fun to debate. And again, for what it's worth, Michael Caine has come out and said, and maybe you've shared the story with me too, Tim, but I read it as well, is that Michael Caine was like, when he read the initial script, he was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on in the script. And like, is it reality? Am I in the dream world and am I not? And Christopher Nolan reassured him that every scene that you are in, Michael, Sir Michael Caine, is reality. And thus, by that logic, he is in that final scene and thus it is.
Well, the
reality.
wobble was the nod towards the reality.
But it wobbles, but then it cuts to black, if I recall, and then like you still hear spinning.
Yeah, it wobbles without falling.
Yeah,
but I think that's the nod to reality too. That
Sure.
Tim doesn't like.
sure. But I like
so
it.
fair, because I would say I actually remember this ending very clearly. I would say fair. I don't think I actually remember anything else about this movie other than the ending,
And
which maybe
that is problematic.
You don't remember the hallway that goes turning
Oh my
around,
gosh.
and they're like in the
Joseph
hallway and turning around
Gordon-Levitt.
in the hallway.
I don't really remember like the premise. I just remember like how like the buildings were sort of jumbled around a bit.
The
you know,
premise is amazing.
yeah.
It's a heist in your brain. You had it right exactly.
We'll
That's
talk
exactly
about
what
it
is.
offline.
Oh,
I'll
well,
rewatch it.
you got me the Nolan disc set, so
that's
we're gonna
right, 'cause I
put
love
it in,
it.
and we're gonna watch it on
I
4K.
love it.
Yes,
Okay, so that's your number
Nice.
two.
that's my number 2.
All right, we're rolling in then.
We should probably go to my number 2.
Oh, yes.
Because
Yes,
otherwise we'll be
yes.
out of balance. Because I had my number 1. Remember, you stole my
That's
number
right.
1 away from me.
That's right.
So my number 2, the oldest film on my list. So we had a 1931 silent. Now we have a 1930 talkie. And this film would be All Quiet on the Western Front. Best Picture winner from 1930. Famous anti-war film. And as an anti-war film, it is trying to communicate to us that war is just a destructive, vulgar force. It does nothing good. It only tears apart. It only breaks. It only kills. So we've been following throughout this entire film a group of fresh-faced, eager young German students from a small town who jump into the war, World War I. This would be with great enthusiasm. You know, they're being promised we're gonna beat those English. We'll be back home by Christmas. You know, the sort of famous the way that people talked about that war is big. We'll be back home by Christmas. And they don't get back home by Christmas. Instead, they spend years just grinding through the most ugly warfare in history. You know, trench warfare in World War I. It's just this disgusting way to just destroy human lives. And so by the end of the film, we only have one soldier left. Everyone else has died in some capacity. And he's, in this moment, he is in like a sort of dirt, like bunker, just trying to survive, and there's dead bodies in the bunker, and he has to stay hidden because in trench warfare, basically what happens is you have snipers on either side, and they shoot anything they see them move. And he glances outside of this little bunker he's in and sees a butterfly, and reaches for the butterfly. I believe at this point he's actually been wounded, so he's kind of like bleeding out very slowly. But he sees a butterfly, and it's beautiful, like life. You know, this just small, beautiful thing in this middle of all this hell. And he reaches his hand out to it. And we cut to, so what we get is a shot of his hand, just his hand, reaching towards this butterfly. And you hear a gunshot on the soundtrack. And again, this is very early in sound cinema. So like, this is a cool thing you couldn't do before 1930. We see his hand reaching out. You hear a gunshot. His hand like stops and then just kind of flops on the ground. And then it cuts to an image of a cemetery with just this transparency of all these characters, all these young boy characters sort of walking in sort of transparent lines over the cemetery because they're dead.
So they're ghosts?
War kills you. They're just dead. They're just dead. It's their memory.
Wow.
Oh.
But so just this really, really, really painful moment of like, it only kills. You know, it does nothing good. And it's just like hammered home in this kind of really horrible moment where we just see this kind of, we see death happen in this very like simple way. We just see his hand stop moving. And that's all that we see. It's not flashy. It's not like heroic. It's not, you know, excitingly gory. It's just a little tiny moment and he's dead. And it's just so profoundly heartbreaking. And it's one of the heaviest things I've ever seen a war movie do. And this is indeed probably my favorite war movie. It's from all the way back in 1930. It's really potent
horrifying
stuff.
That sounds awful.
So, yeah, you'd love it. You'd love it, Carrie.
That's
nothing but death and misery and suffering.
And misery and ghosts. I think a lot of people had to read that or watch that and read that in high school, as basically for what you've been saying, just like a study on all of that and the way the storytelling and all of that. So I know it's definitely beloved. I should catch that. I mean, I'm not eager after that description, but
well, it's not an up movie. It's a dour movie. But I mean, name a war movie that is like up, you know?
Oh, let's see. I've got a couple. 1917.
All right. Love it. So much joy and happiness happens in 1917. I like the scene where we watch a guy bleeding out for like 6 minutes.
Other than that, good ending. Good ending in that one.
All right, Carrie, so we're to your number one.
We're to my number one, and I would assume that you guys all know what it is. It's definitely...
No idea.
Do they ride off into the sunset very literally?
No, they don't.
Oh, but I don't know what it is.
Oh, really? I thought you guys would all know.
I just assumed you had Last Crusade.
Really? Not as an ending. I mean, there's a lot of other elements.
They literally ride off into the sunset. It's adorable.
It is adorable, but like iconic. Yeah, actually, it is iconic. That's a really
Super
good
iconic.
ending.
They ride off into the sunset.
It's actually a very good ending.
Anyway, so what do you have as your number one?
This one is my nod to trying to fit in with you guys, because I was like, okay, I can't all be sunshines and roses all the time.
Well, you did that. You had City Lights. That beautifully ambiguous. And Parasite, a movie that is also even more ambiguous. Really.
I'm gonna have to double click on the endings of those, because again, I felt as though those were happy. This is my tragic ending, but I would have to say, again, it's the most, everybody would agree, the most iconic ending of all time. Every single person knows how this movie ends. It doesn't matter if you've seen it or you haven't seen it. You all know how it ends. And the memory of it is still so ingrained in my face that like sometimes I even reenact it. Like, how many movies do you reenact the ending to? Not many, probably.
I mean, you just saw me reenact the ending of both City Lights and All Quiet on the Western Front on this Zoom
No,
call.
but like physically,
So,
like I physically
it's one of
reacted.
two movies in my mind, and
Sure.
one of them is my number one. So now I'm curious if
What's the movie that I've reenacted before when I'm trying to be tragic?
Oh, then it's not my movie.
Oh, okay.
But you've reenacted my movie quite a few times. So.
Oh, I have. I'm
yeah.
so curious. So you're
This
If
is
it's the
Titanic.
movie I think it is, I think Carrie has made the ending a scene that happens like 8 minutes before the ending.
It is
But let's see.
Titanic.
It is Titanic.
Yeah.
And it's Titanic.
Yeah.
It is Titanic. And a lot of times, like sometimes if I'm trying to be tragic, I'll like lean over the side of the couch and I'll be like, don't ever let me go. And then I'll like,
That's not even slightly the ending of Titanic.
this is the ending of Titanic. This is when the movie is over. Fundamentally over.
There's so much more ending than after that happened.
And there's like, I don't even remember anything that happened after this point. At this point, I've lost all vision because I'm in some sort of like panicking hysteria when I saw it. I mean, like my face is swollen, everything's swollen. Who could have thought that he would have slipped? I mean, not me.
He slipped.
He slipped off the boat.
He lets
the
go.
dinghy.
He commits
Yeah,
suicide.
I don't know what slipping you're talking about.
No, his hands got really cold and he couldn't
the,
hold on
the
anymore.
thought of being with Kate
lets go of
Winslet
her
for the rest
hand.
of his life is so horrifying that he'd rather die of hypothermia.
I've seen this movie so many
I've
times.
only
you don't...
seen it once.
Oh, okay. You need to
When I
rewatch
was
this movie.
16.
He doesn't slip.
No, he sort of
This is the
slipped.
25th anniversary year. This is the 25th anniversary year.
can't.
You have to promise me at some point in this calendar year
can't.
you will rewatch Titanic.
It's too soon. It's too soon. I'm still heartbroken. Well, and here's my question though. I feel like there was room on the dinghy.
Yeah, that certainly has.
It's
been
not a dinghy, it's a door.
Or door,
Hey.
a dinghy door. I feel like there was room, and like that was the other upsetting part. And yet, again,
Mythbusters actually did a thing where they demonstrated that while there was, it would have involved like very precise movements that neither one of them would have been capable of making in that physical state.
I am gonna watch that episode. That sounds like a fun episode. I love MythBusters.
I think it's a Mythbusters. It was a Mythbusters-esque thing for sure that happened.
But would you say that every single human that lives on this planet knows that scene? And the answer is yes.
No.
No.
There are some people who live on this planet who are like 2 hours old.
All right.
So
Most.
I agree.
They haven't even, they weren't, if they started watching Titanic the second they were born, they still haven't gotten to the ending because they're only 2 hours old.
That's fair.
So what's the ending that you're just? That's the ending
Yeah.
that you're talking about when he dies.
Yeah.
That's what you're.
When he dies.
Okay, it is memorable. To Tim's point, it is not the end of the movie, but
Last
that's
10
okay.
minutes. It's in the last 10 minutes. So
Okay.
that's my number
It's
one.
probably in the last 10 minutes.
Everybody agrees with me. And that's
Do you remember how Titanic actually ends, though? I'm curious now, because it does have a great ending.
Do we cut back to the old lady? And
We
does she
have like
find her
another
necklace?
3 scenes with the old lady.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Again, I was blacked out.
She at one point she has to climb on the railing and take the heart of the ocean and drop it.
Oh, that's a good ending
And
too.
falls. That's not how it ends. So she ends her story, and everyone is very, and the granddaughter's like very, I had no idea that this was you were grandmother, and it's all very
Sexy
sad.
lady,
And then
yeah.
that night, she takes the heart of the ocean out, and she says goodbye to it, and she says goodbye to Jack. And then the last scenes, she's in her bed,
Uh-huh.
on the boat, and she's taken all of her pictures, and it pans across all of these pictures, and it's Kate Winslet photoshopped into various, like, she's an aviator, she's, in the Amazon rowing, whatever. She's like all of these things that we see after this experience with the Titanic. She went out and she lived a very, very full life, doing all sorts of crazy shit, having a good time, having just a spectacular life that any one of us would want. And then it ends on the old lady's face.
Mm-hmm.
And this, again, we have some ambiguity, and I love that. That it's unclear if she's dreaming or if she died. And what we get is it then cuts to a POV shot maneuvering through the ballroom of the Titanic up to that grand staircase. All the people that we know have died on the Titanic are there, like, applauding. And then at a certain point, the camera sort of takes a little pivot over and Winslet walks past it. So we realize we've been walking with Winslet up to the stairs where Jack is there, and they embrace on the stairs. And if we take the reading that she's dead, she died at the site of the Titanic so she can go to be with all of the victims of the Titanic, and she may now finally be with Jack.
Oh, gosh.
That's so
I have
sad.
I did not.
That's such a good ending. That's such a happy
I
ending.
need to,
because
now
they're
I'm
together in
excited to watch
eternity.
it. That's good.
Oh, that's so sad. That's so sad.
Oh, Carrie, you okay?
Oh no, I actually have made Carrie cry.
You keep going.
Okay, I'll go.
Good ending.
Oh, it's
Boy,
a good ending. It's a really good ending. The movie has a really, really good ending.
Do you get to be together then?
Yeah, they get to be together. Okay.
That's so sad. Oh, gosh. I actually need that.
Now I'm crying because Carrie's crying.
It's good. Now I got to rewatch that. Good pick, Carrie.
That is so good.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. I think for some reason, like, once she throws it into the water, I kind of check out at that point.
No, there's the bell. They go to the buns. They're in heaven. She kisses Jack in heaven.
Okay.
That is so
It's very good. It's very, very good.
gosh.
My number one.
Take us home, Rob. Oh my God.
My number one will not be making anybody cry unless you're going to Paltrow. And or Brad Pitt, for that matter. My one of my favorite endings, one that we do play out sometimes because we say this line to each other, "What's in the box?" line forever.
Yeah.
Because twists were not off limits for you. Had this for some reason on your top 5 twists. I don't think of it as a twist. It is just a really fun way to wrap up the ending. After chasing down the killer of the 7 deadly sins, Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman capture him. There's still deadly sins that have not been completed. There are 2 left, and one is envy and revenge, or I forget what the wrath.
I think it's envy and wrath.
Envy and wrath, yes. And Morgan Freeman kind of realizes what's happened, why there is a delivery man present, and Brad Pitt then finds out, and it was all part of the person's big plan, Kevin Spacey's big plan to have Brad Pitt murder him after he finds out that not only did he cut off the head of Gwyneth Paltrow, but that she was expecting their baby. So awful tragic ending, but really well shot. Very
but then
iconic.
do you remember what actually is like the literal last thing that happens in 7? Because it's also a really good ending.
See, I feel like no, I don't.
Tell us,
is it
Tim.
gonna make Carrie cry more? Because I want to know.
So Brad Pitt dies and he goes to heaven and he sees no.
And the unborn child. They all meet.
It's a voiceover line. There's a line of voiceover dialogue from Morgan Freeman. And the final line of the movie, as it's this wide shot, I think pulling back, maybe it's just a static wide shot of all of them gathered in the desert and everything's horrible and Brad Pitt is like moaning over his dead wife. Morgan Freeman's last line of voiceover is, "Some people say the earth is a good place and worth fighting for." I believe in the second part.
Oh man, good movie.
I might be slightly misquoting, but that's
good stuff. Another movie. So you got to get me the Fincher collection next, Care. Okay? I'm gonna get Titanic on 4K. You get me the Fincher collection on 4K, and we'll be all set. Or Cameron collection for that matter.
Well, I mean, we're still waiting for some Cameron films on Blu-ray, so that's going to be a long wait.
Well, every week we ask you to submit your picks for our top 5. Based on those submissions, here are the audience's top 5. And Cara, hopefully you're composed now. At number 5, we have a tie with Casablanca and the aforementioned City Lights.
Nice.
So good.
Casablanca was on my long list.
Yeah. At number 4, tie as well, Doctor Strangelove and Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living Dead.
Night of the Living Dead was on
That's a good
my
one.
long list as well.
Tied for number 3, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which was mentioned. And then The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which were also mentioned, kind of like a little bit of a nod to my pick there with La La Land. At number 2, we had Some Like It Hot and The Wicker Man. Fun ending on The Wicker Man, I'm told. I need to watch that one.
Anti-fun. I don't know who told you it was fun. They lied to you. Wicker Man, however, made my long list as well.
And then last but not least, number 1, from the audience's perspective, The Graduate.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, good,
All right.
good
All
picks.
right.
I feel like we really lined up well. Even though we had different picks, we all kind of gave like honor to the ones that we had. So that was good. Our winner this week is Julian, who had at their number 1, Spoorloos, aka The Vanishing, which is one of my favorite endings too.
That's a pretty rough ending. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, probably indicative of Julian's anti-Hollywood taste. Yes, I am aware of the unfortunate irony that the director remade the film and added in the most Hollywood of endings. It's an ending that perfectly delivers to everything that had been laid out prior, and one that I haven't been able to shake since I first saw it. Also had Only Yesterday, The Passenger, A Clockwork Orange, and Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
I thought about throwing Clockwork Orange on mine just to be perverse, because it's famously like not the ending that the author of the book wanted, and Kubrick didn't know that, and I think it works better than the actual ending of the book, so I was sort of excited by it. But yes,
like
good,
most
good
of
list. Thank
Kubrick's
you.
choices, he doesn't always line up with the author, to my understanding. Julian, shoot us an email at contact@alternateending.com for details on how to claim your free Amazon movie rental. If you want to win a free Amazon movie rental like Julian, be on the lookout for our top 5 posts. In closing, I want to thank everybody for listening. Head out to our Facebook page and like it. Twitter, where we're tweeting all the time. Instagram, where we're Instagramming. AlternateEnding.com. We'll find all our movie reviews, podcasts, and more. YouTube and Facebook, where we'll find all of our videos. And subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google. Go out there and leave a review. And don't forget about Patreon. For next week, we'll have our first official relaunch of Pass the Popcorn, and we will catch you then.